Private Officer Beat Radio with Rick McCann at the microphone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another great edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio, a production of Blue Ram Media Group, LLC, and Private Officer International, a private security and law enforcement organization. I'm Rick McCann, your host for the program. As always, we've got a lot to talk about, a lot of information and news to share. And unfortunately, we'll be announcing several more security officer murders that have occurred over the last 7 days. And as we get deeper and deeper into the holidays, we will see more incidents involving attacks on security officers, as well as the unfortunate murders of these private officers while on duty protecting life and property. As promised last week, we told you that in this week's program, we'll be bringing you several opportunities for training, as well as great news about discounts on body armor and a whole lot of other extremely exciting events and opportunities for each of you, whether you are a current member of Private Officer International or not. And this program is packed full of great news and bad news, upcoming events and opportunities. And we're going to be sharing two different opportunities for you to get body armor at discounted pricing, as well as on a payment plan. We'll also, in the next segment of our program, discuss some of the opportunities that are going to be available to each and every one of you across the country and even around the world, because we do have a lot of members throughout the world. We are a global international association. A lot of times we forget that. I don't forget it, but some of our members do, and it's going to be exciting information coming up here in just a few moments. We have had a great response from our last few radio programs, a large listenership, and I heard from someone saying that they, for the first time after many years, they actually forwarded the radio show over to a couple of coworkers. Why did you wait? Great news, but why did you wait so long? So that was exciting. And if you're not already a member of Private Officer International, go to our website, privateofficer.org today. Sign up. Right there at the top of the page, a little block will be blinking. It says, I believe, deals or something like that. Click there. If you need more help, contact help desk at privateofficer.com. We have had, I stated last week, a number of reporters contact us. Again, in the last few days, another reporter has contacted us. We'll be telling you more about that in the program as well. Throughout this program, you may hear some differences in the audio. We've upgraded our audio. We have been working on our studio to make it a little bit more soundproof, because there was a problem with noise pollution coming in from outside of our office buildings. And also, oftentimes, we actually record live from on the road. And we'll be doing some of those live recordings coming up in this new year, and possibly even in the next month or so. We'll be doing a live remote coming up. We do that currently with one of our other radio programs, Highway 98, which is a standard country gospel radio show. We do that sometimes remote, and we've had a lot of great response. People come out, lots of great interaction. So we'll probably take the POI radio show on the road and do that a little bit more often as well, maybe at one of our upcoming trainings. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a lot of great things to share with you. You are listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
And move over. When you see lights,
Vests, all reflectors.
please, give us some room. Slow down and move over. When you need us,
We've got your back.
you have ours.
You got our back?
You got ours? You got our back? Please, slow down.
And move over.
Nurse, I need you to apply pressure to the head wound until I can get to it. I'm concerned she's lost too much blood.
Oh, no.
You in the corner, who are you? You're not supposed to be here.
She's my girlfriend, Doctor.
You need to wait out in the waiting room.
Please, Doctor, I want to stay with her.
Look, she's been badly injured. So if you want to do what's best for her, you need to let us do our work.
Please, Doctor, she has to be okay. I didn't mean to do this. I love her.
Wait a second. You were the driver?
Yes, but I didn't mean to. I swear, we went to dinner. I was just buzzed. I only had a few drinks.
Just buzzed. Why didn't you tell us that? In that case, your girlfriend is fine.
Hey, sweetie, I feel great. You want to get out of here?
I can't believe this. Really, Doctor? She's really okay?
What, are you kidding? No, not really. Nurse, get me a suture kit. Stat.
Buzzed driving. Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Ad Council, and this state.
We're excited today to announce our alliance with multiple businesses who make it their business to protect frontline protectors in law enforcement, security, fire, EMS, bail enforcement, bail bonds, and so many others. For many years, one of our vendors has been Aramark. They're a uniform company, and they also own Gauls Uniforms and Supply. We have worked out an agreement for our POI members to receive 10% off on any body armor until the end of the year. But that's not all. We have also worked out with another body armor supplier, Safe Line Defense, also one of our vendors, is willing to give you 10% off and set you up on a payment arrangement. That's a great deal. And one of our sponsors, Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. They are a leader in high-quality body armor. Give them a call, contact them today, and see what they're able to do for you. I'm sure, 100% sure, that they will work out some arrangements and get you the best quality vest possible. We need that protection. It doesn't matter if you're armed or unarmed. Body armor saves lives. There's so many examples of that. It's just ridiculous that we have so many going without. We have also teamed up with a very unique company. This company doesn't provide body armor, but they do provide tactical training defensive services nationwide. Through this connection, Battle Line Tactical Defense will provide training. They'll come to you nationwide, and again, they'll provide you with a 10 to 20% discount. Check them out online today.
For a limited time, you can advertise your company, your product, service, or training right here on the Private Officer International Network. You can reach tens of thousands of people daily across the country and around the world for literally dollars a day. For a limited time only, you can market in places that you want to be, you want to grow. And if you're an online business, you're going to reach your target market globally guaranteed. For one all-inclusive price, we'll include spot ads, radio ads, social media ads, and our personal backing of your service, product, or training for one low price. Contact Helpdesk at privateofficer.com today. Remember, this is only a limited time offer, so don't hesitate. Contact us today.
You told me not to talk to strangers. You told me not to cross the street without looking both ways.
You told me not to touch the stove. You told me not to do drugs. You told me not to drink and drive.
You gave me so many messages about how to stay safe. Why didn't you keep me safe by properly storing your gun?
Welcome back to the Private Officer Beat Radio, the voice of the Frontline Protector. And you can always be in touch with Private Officer at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Be sure to follow our news blog daily for fresh news at Private Officer Breaking News.blogspot.com. And, of course, on social media, Facebook.com/Private Officer International. And over on Twitter at Twitter.com/Private Officer. We're posting almost 24 hours a day. A lot of great news updates, happenings, opportunities for training, and so much more. We are extremely saddened by the increased violence against private security, as I have represented to reporters over the last now almost 2 weeks of having conducted numerous interviews with local reporters as well as national reporters and a reporter from Time Magazine. What an honor that was. We have found that many people are beginning to wake up and they are beginning to pay attention to what's happening in the security industry. And today we're going to talk a little bit about alliances and allies and how that is a necessity in today's world of private security and even law enforcement, and how law enforcement, no matter what badge they wear, what uniform they wear, what entity they work for, or even if they like that agency or not, they've always been there for each other. They always have each other's back. That is the symbolism of the blue line. And we need to take some references, some examples from what law enforcement has done for ages. And I'll talk about that at the bottom of this program. Allegiance, alliances, allies, so important to have in this day and age and the business that we're in. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how they all came together in a couple of different situations in recent months. Well, I'll tell you what, here on the Private Officer Beat and with Private Officer International, we see and we hear a lot, much more than the average person, because we're monitoring more than 3,000 global news sources. And I think that's one of the things that the reporters were so taken back about, so shocked They were like, you do? You did? You were? Yes, we do. And we have for many years. Here at the Private Officer Beat Radio, we try to give you the information and the resources necessary. Of course, we can't force you to follow us on social media or get our breaking news reports or be a member, but we encourage it because that's part of being a professional, but it's also part of having the resources, the information, the training necessary to do the job today. The importance of alliances, allies, and allegiance.
In the news world, there are cycles of topics, hot buttons, issues, and you probably have heard that bad news or bad things happens in 3. And recently in the news cycle, there's been 3 bad things that have come out of the state of Maryland. And if you live or work in security in that state, you probably would agree. You would say, I don't understand what's going on. The last incident was recorded just a few days ago in Prince George's County, Maryland, in Oxon Hill, a small community, kind of a bedroom community of Baltimore. A shoplifting incident at a giant food store that is a grocery chain well known in that region. It all began as a shoplifting incident at around 10:25 in the morning. A uniformed security officer became aware of a woman who was shoplifting at the store, approached the woman as security, both in loss prevention and uniformed security, do tens of thousands of times, not every year, but literally every day. Thousands of shoplifters are stopped by security. And no one would have known that this would take a turn totally for the worse. The store, located in the 20 block of Audrey Lane, became the scene of a double shooting death. The uniformed security officer approached the woman and began to question her about shoplifting at the store. The woman soon thereafter pulled a gun from her backpack, according to the county police department. We have seen their reports, and we have seen multiple news reportings of the incident. The officer, thankfully, was also armed. Now, he was shot, but he quickly was able to return fire. Imagine if he hadn't been armed. But the sad and tragic event of Friday morning is hard to fathom, but just goes to show the level of violence that people are willing to perpetrate over what really is just a simple situation. Both the security officer and the shoplifter has died. The woman taken to a hospital, pronounced dead just a short time later. And sadly, the security officer died on scene. But had he not been armed, he would have been dead, and the suspect probably would have been long gone. Tragically, this scene here, no one could have ever known it would have played out this way. And no one could have suspected that this woman who shoplifted, police are not saying exactly what, but it couldn't have been worth taking someone's life. No one would have assumed that this incident would have progressed to the level that it did. Although police are calling it an isolated incident, No danger to the community. Of course not, because the suspect's dead. But it's not isolated at all. You see, it's anything but isolated. Look at the violence occurring across the country. Look at the violence occurring in your own community. You want to say this is just isolated, but it's not. Not at all. Another incident occurring in Maryland. And this one garnered international media attention. We picked it up on multiple news sites in multiple countries, first in the European countries, and then it quickly spread across international media and here as well. A Baltimore security officer shot and killed a man suspected of shoplifting at a pharmacy after the man pulled a syringe and threatened him with it. The armed security officer at the pharmacy in the 600 block of Exeter Street pulled his sidearm and fired multiple shots at the suspect. Police say the man did attempt to stab the security officer, but they don't know why the security officer immediately responded with that level of force. Because it might have been an empty needle. It might have been a clean needle. It might have had no intoxicants, no drugs, no nothing in there. And then again, it could have had heroin or some other drug. But the security officer had no way of knowing what was in that syringe. And yet, he used deadly force. So he is under investigation. And there is a likelihood that he will be indicted for murder or some similar charge. Because federally, and the Supreme Court has ruled this numerous times about police, you can't rely or use as a defensive mechanism the fact that, well, the syringe tested positive for heroin or some other drug that would make me incapacitated. It might have even infected or killed me. That's an act of fact. You didn't know that prior to the incident, prior to the use of deadly force. You can't use what we find out after the fact as a defense, which is exactly what he and others have done since this incident, and it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And I really think that this person is going to be in some serious trouble. But we'll see. Now, in some states, especially in the South, yeah, it would have been justified. No one would have taken a second look at it. But in places like Maryland and other states where they are not so pro-security or pro-law enforcement, things could turn out so different. Now, that's two incidents, all in Maryland. But here's a third. A security officer has been charged with attempted murder after she shot a man in the head. 26-year-old Marcus Powell had entered the Royal Farms store, a convenience-style store, at about 3 a.m. last Sunday. Police say he was suspected of possibly shoplifting, but on the other hand, he was also kind of being belligerent and disorderly. The security officer pulled her gun and pointed it to his head. There was no provocation. There was no justification. There was no indication that the man was armed, nor that he was going to attack her. Well, the man did leave. But not too long thereafter, in fact, probably a few moments, he returned. And once again, the security officer confronted him. The security officer tried to restrain Powell, she told police. And when that didn't work, the security officer fired a round into the head of 26-year-old Marcus Powell. Kenesha Spence, 43, now faces charges of attempted murder, aggravated assault, and weapon violations. She told police that Powell lunged at her and her gun went off. Why was her gun out of the holster? When you're trying to detain someone for trespassing, that is but a misdemeanor. You have to justify any use of force, especially lethal force. I saw a comment on Facebook who said, oh, they could justify it because he was bigger, he was stronger, he was trying to overtake her. Nothing in the video indicates any of that. 3 incidents, all involving deadly use of force. By the way, the security officer was an employee of Maximum Protective Security Agency, an agency who has had previous issues with their employees, who has been under investigation. We're going to follow these cases closely. The case of the deceased security officer and shoplifter, sadly, we really don't know why. We'll never know why it rose to that level. But this incident at the convenience store with the security officer shooting the man in the head, I don't think that was justified. The security officer who shot the man with the syringe, again, I could see less lethal. I could see a baton, pepper spray, OC, a taser even. But unless you have information that the syringe is loaded with something that's going to incapacitate or even kill you, to defend yourself against that level of force is going to be difficult. What we continue to see here at Private Officer International, week after week, day after day, month after month, especially in recent years, with the increased use of security, as I told all of the reporters that I interviewed with, is that security officers are dealing with situations they have little training in, if any, and they're put in situations that they don't know what to do, they don't know which way to turn, and so if they're armed, they turn to that weapon that's going to end the situation. And I can guarantee you that some of these security officers are in true fear, maybe of their life, maybe of having the firearm taken, maybe not knowing what to do, maybe they're not strong enough to overtake or subdue the suspect. There are so many situations happening out there daily that do put them in jeopardy. As with single manned patrol cars, one officer in the vehicle, if there's no immediate backup, their lives are in danger every time they conduct a traffic stop or interact with public until they can determine otherwise. And that is exactly what's happening with private security. We need to look at ways of better training. We need to look at ways of better equipping these officers, especially if they're going to be armed. We need to look at, maybe some defensive tactics, use of force, stronger use of force, guidelines, and training. We need to equip them with 2A radios and immediate backup. What could have that security officer have done at the convenience store? She could have called police, but she never did. She could have stepped away from the situation Instead of escalating it, she could have walked away. There's no shame in retreating until you have backup, as I've mentioned many, many times before. This is not Monday morning quarterbacking. This is not second guessing. This is not trying to play devil's. No, I'm not the devil's advocate. I'm a trained professional in law enforcement and security, a post instructor, many, many decades of training, and just looking at all of the evidence and documentation, I really questioned both of these shootings that occurred in Maryland, and in the third shooting, the security officer thankfully was armed and responded appropriately. Though it didn't save his life, it did end the possibility of that suspect fleeing and injuring other officers. We're going to take another break. When we come back, of course, we've got a whole lot more information. We want to talk about really how to network, how to gain the trust of the people we work with and for. And we want to talk about how we need to protect each other in this profession, as law enforcement has done forever and ever. We'll be right back. You are listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector here on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
Luke when I was pretty much born. We kind of just grew up together. He got his license when he was 16. We were going to the beach, and Luke was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and all of a sudden, I don't remember anything. I wasn't conscious for it. We got hit by a drunk driver. I feel like I knew right away that it was never going to be the same. I don't know. The doctors, they were telling me I was so lucky to be alive. When I found out that he died on impact, I didn't really feel lucky. And sometimes I still don't. Drinking and driving is completely unnecessary, and I think it's selfish if you do it. It's not worth taking that risk, because you never know what's going to happen.
Each day, those that protect and service in law enforcement put their lives on the line. These law enforcement officers often work long and irregular hours in tough and dangerous conditions, run a high risk of being attacked, wounded, or even killed by the very criminals that prey on us. Every year, hundreds of law enforcement officers are killed or seriously injured in the line of duty. Blue Alert is a system that provides the means to speed the apprehension of violent criminals who kill or seriously injure local, state, or federal law enforcement officers. Find out how you can truly help those who help. That's bluealert.us.
If you're not already receiving breaking news and our bi-weekly newsletter, Officer Down reports, and discount training news in your personal or business email, then go to our website right now at privateofficer.org. privateofficer.org. A Dropbox will come down. Just fill out your info, and you'll be the first, one of the first, for sure, to know about what's happening in the security industry. You'll know when a security officer is killed. You'll also get these great discounts on training and equipment and so much more. privateofficer.org.
And now for the news.
Everyone to the Private Officer Beat Radio on this Monday morning, the 7th day of November. We're right in the heart of the holiday season. Attacks on security officers have really increased substantially over the last few years, but they are about to increase even more. Some of the news articles making headlines locally and even internationally shows the violence that security officers are facing. And in my conversations with reporters, they have questioned that. They wanted to know about that. And I was able to clearly show and connect the dots for them about how security duties have changed and how they are interacting more than ever with the public, violent public at that many times. An incident in Sumter, South Carolina, where a security officer came under attack has led to attempted murder charges now against 35-year-old Chantarica Michelle Unique Gray. She's facing attempted murder, assault, and battery, driving under suspension, and leaving the scene of an accident with injuries. This happened at a Waffle House at about 3 a.m. on Broad Street. Police said she got into a confrontation with the security officer at the restaurant, then got into a minivan and tried to hit him several times. Now, she missed, and instead she hit a vehicle with someone inside. Other vehicles were damaged during her getaway, but police were able to catch up with her when she apparently went to a hospital for treatment of minor injuries. She's been arrested and faces those serious charges. The security officer was not injured. Making headline news across the country. Violence against security. In Morris County, New Jersey, a security officer was stabbed at a theater. It triggered a chain of events that ended with one man under arrest and the security officer with multiple stab wounds. David C. Kinetic, 47 of Connecticut, is charged with second-degree aggravated assault and other weapon offenses. He was transferred over to a psych evaluation at a hospital. According to people who were there and video, an argument over a juvenile taking cell phone video and pictures at the Chiller Theater Expo in Morris County triggered this chain of events that did end with the security officer being stabbed. Police say that witnesses said that an argument ensued and it became embroiled with other guests as well. The security officer tried to explain the violation, but the man didn't want to hear it and wound up stabbing the security officer, who I understand is recovering. A Louisiana man also charged with an attack on security. This happened in Houston at the Houston Methodist Baytown Hospital. He kicked and punched the security officer and attacked him during a violent struggle, the news release said. Assistant Police Chief David Alford said the man, who became very combative at the ER, also assaulted a hospital police officer and several others. Charges of assault on peace officers and a felony assault on assaulting a security officer charge also was levied in Houston or in Texas. It's a criminal offense in itself to assault a security officer. A Virginia security officer is recuperating after he was shot during an apartment complex disturbance. Police haven't released a whole lot of details, but say that it involved a vehicle playing loud music. Police have not made an arrest in that situation, but they are searching for a known suspect. They have the license plate, and it's only a matter of time before that suspect is taken into custody. 4 security officers murdered over the last 10 days. Known security officers. There may be others. We don't know. As much as we try to monitor every news source, every platform, every website, of course, we're going to miss some of those stories. And that's why we need you to send us that information at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. 4 security officers dead, multiple others seriously and critically injured as we enter the holiday season. This really gives everyone in the industry a reason to take pause and to understand what's happening. Just this past week, a new study of cities with the highest rates of homicides. Number 1 was Kansas City, Missouri, and this is based on per capita homicides as well as per capita homicides during 21 and 20. Detroit led in the number 2 spot. St. Louis, Missouri, number 3. New Orleans, always making the top 5, also was number 4. Milwaukee, number 5. Number 6, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Number 7, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And this is a little shocking, Norfolk, Virginia. Number 8, a growing area in the Hampton Roads section of Virginia. Nashville, Tennessee, growing by leaps and bounds. Crime is increasing so much that police cannot get a handle on it, and people cannot get their heads around it. Although it's a beautiful city, many people are moving there, and of course that increases traffic and crime. And number 10, Oakland, California. Completely on the other side of the country. In Portland, Oregon, a Rite Aid loss prevention agent has been charged with raping a woman. Daniel Louis Casanelli, 43, has been charged on 4 counts of first-degree rape, first-degree sodomy, and 2 counts of first-degree sexual abuse, according to a press release. When you see news happening, send it to helpdesk@privateofficer.com. In Alexandria, Virginia, a Pentagon Force Protection officer, a federal police officer, has been arrested after undercover Arlington County police officer saw him conduct a narcotics transaction. Police swooped in and made the arrest. He was also carrying a firearm. That officer has been identified as Eric Welch, 33, charged with multiple felonies, including 2 counts of possession with intent to distribute a controlled substance and possession with intent to distribute a controlled substance while armed. And he is currently waiting a bond hearing. We put out this information over the weekend. LAPD is being sued by a security company, a private security contractor for the LAPD, says they're being harassed. And they have filed a lawsuit against their own client, the LAPD. Bullying and harassing of employees of the security company is non-stop, according to the lawsuit. Abbott Security Services sued Los Angeles Police, Detective Benjamin Jones, and Officer Eric Rose in a federal court under the California Private Attorney General Act. It also alleges whistleblower retaliation. The security company, which provides security services for the LAPD for the last 6 years, says that the city has told private parties to cancel their contracts with Abbott Security, which has cost them millions, they say. City employees and police have bullied them, harassed them, followed them. The misconduct includes repeated, unwarranted, and disappropriate hostility for the security company's employees who follow proper protocol, contrary to city employees' ad hoc wishes. The LAPD, it doesn't have any comment. Coming out of New York City, the Trump administration settled a lawsuit after a lawsuit was filed saying that his security officers assaulted and attacked protesters outside of the Trump Tower in New York in 2015. The settlement amount is undisclosed. A number of people were part of that lawsuit. In Georgia, a police chief, Anthony Williams, arrested for burglary while on duty. The Georgia police chief broke in and burglarized the home last month. Williams, the chief of the Willachoochee Police Department, was arrested by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. The 49-year-old chief turned himself in and then quickly was released on a $5,000 bond. No further details about whose house or whose property or anything else. A former Mesa, Arizona police officer has been released from his security officer position at a Valley High School. This after a news report showing that Gilbert Public School District had hired the former police officer after he gave up his certification over a allegation of sexual misconduct. He no longer is AZ Post, Arizona Post certified, meaning he no longer can be a police officer in Arizona. He could be a police officer elsewhere. But he got a job with the local school district as a security officer. After the investigation, the school released him under media pressure. Coming out of San Francisco, California, video all over the internet shows security officers working for a contract security company attacked a woman, put her in a chokehold, and continued to assault her. The video is questionable. We really don't know what happened, what started it, or anything else, and yet it is making headline news. In Phoenix, Arizona, the city council there approved private security officers to take over some of the park patrols. They're understaffed park rangers. There are many openings for those park rangers. They say that these security officers will be unarmed, and they will just help with added patrols to detect and deter illegal activities. The Michigan State Police announced this past week 340 troopers have been equipped with AEDs. That's about half of their patrol service, they said. The AEDs will be used to help those experiencing sudden cardiac arrest. The AEDs were part of a contract and a grant that they received. The Michigan State Troopers believe that they will equip the rest of their troopers coming up shortly. Also making news this week in the headlines, police say that a man attacked a security officer violently in Richmond, Virginia. The security officer was found unconscious. This happened at an apartment complex, but very few details have been released. Also coming out of Virginia, 3 D.C. men have been charged with assaulting another security officer. This was at the Pentagon City Mall in Arlington, Virginia. The group of men, including one who pulled a knife and threatened a security officer at the Fashion Center in Pentagon City in the Arlington County area. This was after a shoplifting of sunglasses. The security officer reported to police Friday at 4:20 p.m. When he approached the man, one pulled a knife. A female who was caught trying to steal the sunglasses was with the group of men, and they threatened the security officer. Police soon was able to arrest Isaiah Johnson, 18, of Washington, D.C., and charged him with assault by mob, obstruction of justice after they resisted arrest. Tyrone Yarborough, 19 of D.C., and Justin Jackson of D.C., also charged with assault by a mob and resisting. All three were released on unsecured bonds. A security officer was assaulted at the Trinity Center. This is downtown Austin. He was injured after a woman attacked and attempted to stab him. Police responded. They were able to identify and quickly arrest Monteek Hodges. The security officer was treated. He had abrasions. He had cuts. The suspect is in custody. 4,000 NYPD officers expected to retire this year alone. According to documents, some already putting in notice that they will retire at the end of the year. The NYPD says they are on pace to see more than 4,000 officers retire or resign this year, the most since the post-9/11 exodus. Data obtained by the New York Post shows pension fund figures reveal that 3,054 officers have filed to leave the department so far this year, 42% more than the 2,155 who exited at the same time last year through September 30th. If the pace continues in the fourth quarter, the NYPD says it stands to lose about 4,072 officers. That's even higher than the crippling attrition the department suffered in 2002 after the 9/11 attack, after 3,846 police officers left the force following the 9/11 terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. Union leaders, they warned that the mass exodus will create not only a staffing emergency, but a life and death situation for police on the streets. To get enough personnel on the streets as the force falls now to just under 34,000 sworn officers from the 40,200 that it had in 2000, the NYPD is on pace to spend about $600 million in overtime as they continue their recruitment efforts. New York City, although seeing some of the highest in the nation of officers leaving, retiring, or quitting, they're not the only one. A school security officer in Jersey City is under arrest. He's charged with sex crimes against 2 minors. Police say that Freddie Salas, 60, of Bayonne, New Jersey, committed the offenses. They say it did not happen on school property, but he is charged with first-degree aggravated sexual assault, 2 counts of second-degree sexual assault by contact, and 2 counts of second-degree endangering the welfare of a child. In San Francisco, a security officer there was shot at a Safeway. Police say, again, a shoplifting was the result of the shooting. The man fled the San Francisco Safeway. The security officer tried to stop him after he shoplifted at the 4950 Mission Street address. He, in turn, shot the security officer. Police arrested 50-year-old Andre Brown. He's charged with robbery, attempted homicide, and multiple other felonies. Miami security officer also was injured during a situation, and the list goes on and on and on. Somebody needs to take notice. Somebody needs to take action. Things have got to change now, or we're going to see security officer deaths in triple numbers. We're already in double digits. We'll be right back on the Private Officer.
More than 114,000 people are waiting on an organ transplant at any given time in the U.S., and at least 80% of those are waiting for a kidney.
For kidneys, it largely defaults to waiting time, but for livers, hearts, and lungs, it's largely based on the degree of illness and how sick someone is, and that defines their priority on the waiting list.
Dr. Charles Rosen, director of the Transplant Center at Mayo Clinic, says living donors can help save people waiting for a kidney or a liver, but those waiting for other organs, unfortunately, have to wait for a deceased donor. Dr. Rosen says if you're interested in saving another person's life with your organs after you die, it's important to sign up as a donor now while you're still alive to save your family from having to make a difficult decision at a difficult time.
We've heard from donor families or potential donor families that decided not to donate because it was such a stressful time in their lives that then 3-6 months later they felt some remorse for not doing that.
For the Mayo Clinic News Network, I'm Ian Ross.
I would be living in a make-believe world, in La La Land, in dream world, someplace not real. If I said that every human, from sea to shining sea, will always agree that there will never be conflict or ill will, that peace will suddenly appear, and that everyone will be of like mind and never fight, argue, destroy, or kill. But that's not reality. Even in the world of animals. Animals have conflicts. Animals kill one another. Animals steal food from one another, and even they take over the inhabitants, the homes of other animals. And bears will kill off cubs so that they can mate with a female bear. It is an ugly world sometimes that we live in, but that is reality. We're coming into the Christmas season, and don't we pray for peace on earth and goodwill to all men? And Lord, I hope one day we'll see it, but I doubt it'll be here below. But we need alliances, and we need people's allegiance, and we need to develop it. And sometimes that means reaching out our hand first to shake the hand of someone else. Sometimes that means we have to take the first step across enemy lines. Sometimes we have to make the first move. It is so important today more than ever, and it will continue to be extremely important for security personnel to do exactly what law enforcement has done through the years and that are concentrating on even more so in today's world. And that is to build trust, to build alliance, to build allegiance. The definition of allegiance is really quite simple. It really is. And all that it asks for is the commitment or the loyalty of another. Maybe a subordinate to a superior, or an individual, or a group, or a cause. You see, if we, as the security industry, can first start by having an allegiance with one another, like law enforcement has done, we can make our profession stronger and safer. If we can have an alliance with those that we protect and serve as private security or private law enforcement, if we can have crossed the lines and get folks on our side on the properties that we work on. I'm not asking them to be informants. I'm not asking anyone to have a bunch of snitches. But I want you to understand that we need to win them over and show them that we have some common goals. Now, this radio program is not about me, but I do have a lot of experience. And in my security companies, I've long had HUD-type properties, tax-deferred properties, low-income properties, high-crime properties. It wasn't my goal to have these type of clients, but they kind of just fell into my lap, and I began doing that starting way back in the 1980s while working law enforcement and owning a security business. One thing that I quickly realized working those type of properties, not everybody was a criminal. Not everybody was a dope dealer. Not everybody was a gun runner. Not everybody wanted to be there, but because of their circumstances, they had no other place to go, and they were there. That didn't mean they were part of the hood. It didn't mean they were part of the problem. No, most of those tenants and residents wanted peace and quiet, just to raise their family like everybody else across the world. There were just some bad apples that lived there that caused most of the problems, most of the crimes. It was just some of the tenants who brought problems back onto the property with them, brought guests onto the property who sold drugs, had illegal guns, were intoxicated, loud, disturbing others. And through commonality and through communication and through offering community events like Halloween parties, Christmas parties, we had backpacks full of school supplies for some of the young residents of the properties that couldn't afford it. We put the first hand out. We put the first efforts forward. We made strides in relating with the people that live there on these properties. We understood their problems, just like police departments and community policing have done for many years. Community policing is all about being part of the neighborhood. Now, there's a new CBS TV show. I mentioned this because it kind of fits into this week's conversation, and that is, it's called East New York. And East New York is, it's not really the best of neighborhoods. And in the precinct of this TV show, the new commander wants people to move into the projects, into the bad crime areas, the HUD properties. And several officers do. One white girl, female officer, moves in, and she has all kind of problems. And people call her pigs, and they painted pig on her door, and so on and so forth. But she's beginning to make strides, really putting in the efforts to show that she's there to help the people who want their community to be safe. While others who don't, she's helping to root them out. And that's what I've done with low income and even in other apartments, medium income, blue collar areas. Networking with our clients, with the tenants, with the staff of a business, whether it's a retail or a school. Not being all gung-ho, everything's a violation, we're going to write you up, we're going to arrest you, we're going to do this, that, and yeah, there's a time and place for that, but we need their alliance. And to some regard, we need their allegiance. We want them to be committed to making a change, to being the change. We can only do so much. Law enforcement can only do so much.
Right now, we're moving into a very violent time, not only historically, but the season. Christmas from October through January is violent. Robberies increase. Burglaries increase. Shootings increase. Domestic increase. Thefts increase. Historically. But now, even more so because of the status of our violent crime situation across the country. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about what else we can do to be safe ourselves while showing others that we're the good guys. We're there to help them. We're there to protect them. You're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector here on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
In yesterday's edition of the LP Zone, we began the conversation about having alliances, about being able to communicate with others in the work environment. You don't have to be their friends or their pals. You don't have to have dinner at each other's homes. You don't have to go out drinking on the town or partying or any of that. To have a good working relationship and an alliance, to have the same goals and understanding and wants of a safe community, a safe workplace, a safe environment, free from being robbed or killed or shot, drug dealers taking over, or in this case, retail takeover violence, heavy-handed shoplifting, armed robberies, and even shooting and murders of convenience store workers and retail workers across the country. We don't have to be friends to want the same thing. We don't have to have the same goals across the board, just where the workplace is related, just to where they live. If we're providing services, at an apartment complex or a condominium or even a gated community or a, very wealthy retirement village, whatever it might be. We got to be on the same page, folks. It begins with communication and honesty. And again, this isn't about me or my security companies, but this is a fact. We would often in the past set up a community meeting when we took over a new low-income complex and had invited the tenants out to let them know about what we were going to do to protect them, how we were going to help make their life better. Some of them really did appreciate that, and others not so much because they were part of the problem. But we need to do that across the board. If your client has weekly employee meetings, you should be involved in it. If your company that you're working at, whether proprietary or contract, has workplace safety meetings, employee staff meetings, you need to be part of it. We can build that trust, we can build that alliance and even allegiance where people want to come and talk about the problem, want to tell you what's happening around them to make it a safer home environment or work environment. What can we do? We can set up our own safety meetings. We can have our own tenant meetings. We can participate in meetings already scheduled. We can act like we have a heart. We can act with sympathy and empathy. We can act like we care, and I do. I truly do and always have. That's why most people get in public safety. That's why most people become police officers or even security.
We want to help. We want to be the difference. We want to make the difference, but we can't do it alone. Now more than ever, we need everybody else to be on the same bandwagon, be on the same page, be part of the same solution, the same goals, the same efforts. We need each other. Oh, no, I don't. I can do this I'm security. I can do it by myself. That's not how it works. It'll never work that way. Police started community policing, getting out into the community, getting out into the low-income neighborhoods, getting out in the high-crime neighborhoods to make a difference. Right now, in my security company, we have some contracts that we've had to put in extra effort actually, because of these very same topics, the same situation. Low trust of law enforcement or anyone wearing a uniform, high violence and criminal activity, nobody willing to cross the lines to help each other. But little bit by little bit, things are changing because of our efforts. We initiated the efforts. We let people know. Just recently, we took the blood sugar of some folks who thought they might have had diabetes. Being a paramedic, we have EMTs, we are able to conduct those exams. But if you're not certified to do it, you can get an EMT on site, or even a nurse's aide can take the blood sugar and check for the blood sugar level to see if somebody is in that diabetic level. You could recommend places to go. I have, over the years, recommended resources for people who needed their light bill paid or some extra food on their table, or even after-school resources where their children needed tutors but couldn't afford them. There are free services out there. We can provide these free services. We can help to connect them with the free services. We can help with connecting them to the resources they need. This is all about helping. And that helps us, because they will begin to talk to you. They will begin to open up. They will begin letting you know what's happening on the property or in the retail store. They will tell you stuff that you need to know to protect yourself. Hey, so-and-so said he's going to get you. Yeah, he said as soon as you're alone, he's going to get you. As soon as you come around that building, watch out. You need that information. Intelligence. We talked about intelligence, building up intel. Numerous programs have been all about building up intel through technology, through internet searches, but also by having not snitches, but alliance. People have allegiance. They want to help if they like you, if they believe in you, if they believe in the cause, if you're both on the same page. If you respect them and they respect you, I will guarantee you that things will change and that you will have more info, more intel, more tools to do your job and to be safe at it. Whether you're working in a retail environment, a low-income housing complex, or some blue-collar neighborhood. It's all about trust, alliances, and allegiance. What else can we do? What else can we do for everyone to be better prepared, better connected, to be safer? Well, one of the parts of the equation that I haven't talked about is our connection with law enforcement. I don't think that we really believe as a whole that we need law enforcement until it's too late. Oh, a robbery occurred. I need to call the cops. Oh, I've been stabbed. I got to call the cops. Oh, somebody stole my gun, disarmed me. I got to call the cops. I don't know how many hundreds, probably thousands of times where security officers have said they don't want to know nothing about me. They don't want to help. They don't come. That's another radio show. but we need to reach out to them, as I have done previously by going to the precinct commander. I recently, just within the last 2 weeks, gone to a precinct commander and said, we have a problem on this property. And we're going to be making arrests. We're going to be detaining. We're going to be towing vehicles that don't belong there. And we need your backup. And guess what happened? That same afternoon, he put an email out to his commander over him in the region, and he put an email out to all the patrol officers that worked that division. And that afternoon, I needed help. There was a shooting across the street. The subject came over to one of our properties. Police responded, and I've had nothing but cooperation whenever I go and meet with a precinct commander. And I talk to some of the patrol officers. It does help that I have law enforcement experience. That is true. But you don't have to be a police officer to have cooperation with local law enforcement. There are many components with making the job safer, with making your client's property safer, with getting the bad guys put in jail. We need to have all of them connected. Connecting the dots. You can get their allegiance, the law enforcement community's allegiance, by showing who you are. Not someone who calls every time there's somebody illegally parked in a handicap space. No, that's a waste of resources, especially now more than ever. Not calling just because somebody's got loud music in the car, or somebody won't leave exactly when you say because they didn't do anything. You're just being, uppity. You're just being aggressive instead of trying to de-escalate. Yeah, we don't always have to call the cops. Knowing when to call the police and when not to call the police, especially now when they're understaffed, under-resourced, is going to go a long way. We handle in our security companies everything that we can up to the point where we need law enforcement. There are many components to this whole situation. We'll talk more about it in part 2 next week. Keeping safer during this holiday season and all year long has many aspects, many components. And if you don't get this picture, that's a problem. If you don't think you need other people, you need more training, you need more resources, that's a problem too. Next week, part 2. You really want to hear this. Thanks for being with us this week on the Private Officer Beat Radio. Until the next time, be safe, be blessed, and we'll see you back here on the radio.